Hi, this is Abby Cadabby here, and I'm going to do a video on combining designs so that you can take several different designs or elements and create something that's unique to you. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to show you is relatively simple, and I live part-time near the beach, so I like a lot of beach designs. And so I'm going to use a design from Embroidery Library, and it's called City Square. And I like this design, except it says Miami, and I don't live in Miami, so I'm going to try to edit this design. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my freehand select tool, and I'm going to draw a lasso around the word Miami. And I need to zoom in so that I can get around the parts pretty easily. And I just start by left clicking, and then I can drag my mouse all the way down as long as I stay pretty straight, and then I can click at the end to make a 90-degree turn. Then I'm going to click, and I'll click right about there, and I think I can make a straight shot all the way across, which I can. And then I'm going to come up and go around this green diamond, and then I'm going to just cross my line here. I don't have to be on the end, and I'm going to split. And so I'm going to delete the word Miami, and so I use my trash can. And so the next thing I need to do is I know I'm going to need more space down here. So I'm going to separate this little flower with the curvy line. And again, I'm just going to separate it, but this time I'm not going to delete it. And then I'm going to separate these diamonds, and I'm going to do them individually. I'm going to split them, and I'll do the last one. Okay, so I have my different parts split, and I know I'm going to need a larger hoop, so I'm going to come down, and I want a vertical hoop, so I will select this one right here, and so I have a larger hoop to work with, and so I can move my elements to give me some room to play with, because we'll be moving these again later. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to add new lettering here. So I'm going to go to Insert Text, and I'm going to use this alphabet number 7, and I'm going to type in the word Panama City Beach. And then I can look at the properties, and I really don't know at this point whether if I keep this like this, whether it will work or not, but I'm going to give it a try, and then I'll look at the layout to see if there's anything with the way these letters stitch that I think I need to change the spacing on. And I think it looks okay, so I'm going to click OK. And so I have my words here, and obviously it's too big to fit here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my freehand select tool, and I'm going to separate the word beach from Panama City. And so I'm going to separate that by using the split tool. And now I'm going to select Panama City, and I'm going to place it under my design, and I'll do the same with beach. And now I want to make sure that Panama City Beach is centered horizontally in my hoop. So I will click on Panama City, and I'm going to use the center horizontal tool, and it bumped it over toward the right a little bit. And the same with beach, it moved it to the right. And I can double check that this design is also centered in the hoop, and it is. So now I think my little fleur-de-lis down here is too low, so I'm going to select that. And I can move that up a little bit to where I like it. And I think that's about correct spacing. And so again, I'll center horizontally, and I need to move these two little diamonds. So I'm going to select over in my objects order panel, I'll select the one diamond, and I'm going to move it down here a little bit, and I'll move this one down here a hair. But I want these diamonds to be across from one another. I mean, exactly across from one another. So I'm going to bring down a guideline from my horizontal bar. And so I like the spacing of the first, where I put the first one better. So I'm going to zoom way in, and I tried to put that guideline right on those points of that diamond. And so then I'll come over and look at this one, and you can see I'm a little high. So I'm going to just bring that down a hair. And then I want to look to see if I like how they're positioned. And so I could bring in a vertical guideline and kind of put it right on that point of that. And I think I want this nudged in a little bit, but I don't want to mess with my having to move it again. Um, so I'm going to hold down my shift key on my keyboard, and I'm going to press my arrow key that points to the right, and I'm just going to nudge it over if I select it. All right, so now I have it selected, and so I'm going to nudge it over until it looks like the point's going through that guideline, and I can deselect it so that I can see, and it looks good. And so now I'm going to move my guideline over, and I'm going to kind of pick the same spot on this curly cue and select and it's off a little bit also, but this time I'm going to go to the left, and I think that looks pretty close. So I'm happy with that. And I think this surfboard is rather dull looking, so I want to change the color of the design on the surfboard. And so I believe the design is this dark brown, and I can check that by left clicking on it. And it is, but it's also tied to the red circles in the sun. But so what I decided to do, instead of trying to separate those out, I'm just going to left click on the brown, and I'm going to change the color. And I always choose my color from a catalog. And so you have many different brands of sewing thread in the catalog, and so you can scroll through and look at all the different ones. And if you have a favorite, some people like sim thread, you could select sim thread, or you could select Madeira. If you have a lot of Madeira, I'm going to use the Robinson Anton polyester, and I'm going to select this deep scarlet color. I think, or yeah, no, maybe Devil Road. I think that's a little redder. So I'm going to click OK. And so now the circles in my sun are a bright reddish color, which is fine for a sun. And I like the color of the surfboard better. And I'd like my Panama City Beach to also be in that color. So I could either grab the red, and I wish I knew how to get rid of those pop-up menus, with my left mouse button and drop it on top and set identical, or I could just click on the color chip and change color from catalog and select. I'd have to scroll up. I think it was double red. I can type the name in, and there it is, and I could click OK. And so now I have my design, and if I'm happy with that, I can start joining things back together. So the first thing I'm going to join is my name of my city, Panama City, and I'm going to join that, and then I'll join my two green diamonds together. So I'm going to join those. And so now I'm going to join the four parts of my design together. And so I have my design, and I got lots of color changes here. I mean, I got like 21 color changes close to it. So I'm going to try a smart color sort and see what happens. And so I have my maximal distance is 0. So I'm hoping it's going to change and correct a lot of this. And it reduced my color changes down to 10. And so I think it was 10. Yes, the last color is 10. So I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm going to look at my hoop and I can move my guidelines out of the way just so that they don't distract me. They will not save on your design. And so I'm going to just make sure that my design is centered in my hoop, which it was not. And then I'll come up and click a Save As. And I would pick whatever format that I use for my machine. And you should be familiar with those formats. And I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to name this, and I want to name it something slightly different. So I'll name it Panama City Beach 2, and I'll click Save. And so it saved my design. So that was a pretty easy edit. There wasn't a whole lot as far as adding other elements to the design other than the wording. So let's try something a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to delete this design. And as I said, I like beachy things, so I'm going to open another design. And I wanted to sew this on a kitchen towel. So the design was Love Beach, and I want the 6x6 size. And so I'm going to select my design. And so here it is. Except I want this to say I love seashells instead of beach. And so I want to eliminate the kind of burgundy red, the beach. And so I'm going to come up to that color chip in my objects order panel and I'll right click on it and then I'll come down and I'll select delete color. Much easier way in this circumstances to delete it than trying to work around these swirls. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a larger hoop, and so I want a horizontal hoop for this design. And so I have my hoop, and I have decided that I'm going to use an alphabet by a company called Personal Life Embroidery, and I need to merge the letters in. So I'm going to click on Merge, and I'm going to go to my folder where I keep my designs and my alphabets, and so I have them under ABCs. And so I'm going to scroll down to Personal Life Embroidery, and there it is. And I'm going to use Country Fair. And I'm going to use the largest size they have, which is 1.5. And so I need a capital I. I need a capital S for seashells. And then I'm going to continue to select letters by selecting additional letters by holding down my control button. So I know I need an E, an A, an H, an L, and the lowercase s. Okay, so I have all my letters and they just came in as a big jumbled mess in the middle of my work table. But when I look at my objects order panel, they're all individual elements. So now I can start sorting things out. So I'm going to click on the A and have a selection box here. And you notice I have a selection box on my work table. So if I grab inside that selection box, I can move that element out. And the same with the S. And then the A, which will go about there. And the E, I'm just going down the way they are. They're not in alphabetical order here. So I'm going to select my E, and I need to move this S down a little bit further. So let's just move everything down. And then I need my lowercase s and my H. And since I can only select the E once, I'm going to need to do a copy and paste. So I select the E in my objects order panel, and I come up to my copy button, and now I'm going to paste, and it always pastes directly on top of the letter that you chose. So I'm going to grab that and move it down, and then I have my L, so I'm going to bring that down, and I need to copy and paste the L to get the second one. And then I need to select the S again and do a copy and paste of the S. So I just kind of put my letters here. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention as to how they were spaced vertically. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to leave the S where it is for the time being, but I want to work on spacing my letters horizontally. So I'm going to move my E a little closer, and then I will move my A closer. And I'm just doing this visually to what looks good. So you don't want any of your letters sitting too far apart. And so, and I usually place letters like L's and I's a little closer together because they don't have any horizontal portion to them. And so there's my S. So I think my spacing, other than this S, looks a little too far apart. I think my spacing looks okay, but I don't like the fact that this S is so small compared to this S. This is supposed to be a capital S. So I'm going to just kind of drag it down to this H because the H is actually taller than the S. And so I'm going to kind of put it on top there. And then this little node at the top here, the selection box, when my cursor changes to a double arrow, I'm just going to drag it up and make this S slightly taller than that H. And then I can move the S back down to its spot. And so I think that looks okay. I might just drag that a little closer. And so I'm going to check things out in the Sew Simulator and see what happens. So when I go to Sew Simulator, I can watch it sew, and everything looks okay until we get to the word seashells. And then it starts jumping all over the place, doing different letters at different places. And I would not be happy with that stitching this way. So I'm going to close the Sew Simulator, and I need to go back over to my Objects Order panel. And so right now, the love with the sand dollar is the first object, and when I click on that, it tells me object 1. And when I click on the I, it tells me the I is object 2, and it tells me my capital S is object 3. So I need my E in seashells to be object 4. And right now, the E is object 5. So how I get E to be object 4 is I click on this little icon of the E, and it's selected because I have the box around it, and I'm going to left click on it and just drag it up on top of the A, and you see I have a little piece of paper that's trailing, and I'm going to let go, and I'm going to insert before the A. So now I have SEA, which is fine, but and I need to bring this second S up. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to left click on it, and I'm just going to move my mouse forward until I get to the H, and then I'm going to release my mouse button and click insert before. And so now I only have one last letter to get in the proper order. And so again, I'm going to left click and hold my mouse button down, and I'm going to move my mouse up. And when I get to the L, I'm going to release my mouse button and insert before. So now I know I have the SEASHE correct, but do I have my two L's correct? So I can just click on this L and this L, and I see that they are stitching correctly in the right order. So now I can go back to my sew simulator and watch it sew out. And as it does seashells, you can see that it's sewing the letters in the correct order for the word. So now the next order of business is that I need to make sure that my word seashells are straight across the bottoms. I could, just to demonstrate this a little better, I could move this H up, and I could move this A down, and maybe move this a little bit. And so I could leave them like this if that's what I wanted, but I don't. And so I'm going to select the capital S, and then I'm going to come down and hold the shift button and select the lowercase s. And now you can see I have a selection box around every letter in seashells, and the entire word is selected. So I'm going to go to my Align tool, and I want to align the bottoms of these letters. So I'm going to click on Bottoms, and I'm not going to make any other changes, and I'm going to click OK, and it brought everything up, and now they're straight across the bottom, and so I know that my letters are perfectly spaced horizontally and vertically. I can't say perfectly horizontally because I eyeballed it, but I do know they're spaced equally vertically. So now what I want to do, since I have them all selected, is that I want to join them. And so I'm going to use the join button. And you see now I only have 3 objects in my object order panel. When I click on seashells, it's object 3. So the next thing I'd like to do is I need to adjust this letter I. It's way too small for this upper font. So I'm going to select the I, and I'm going to bring it down so the bottom of the I is close to the bottom of the L, and I want an I that's similar in height to this capital L. So I'm going to use this resizing node in the center here. And when my cursor turns to a double arrow, I'm just going to pull the I up. And so now I have a tall I. And I do like this top stitching on this. And so these letters don't have any top stitching. So I'm going to make my own. And so I'm going to go to the insert, and I'm going to use the simple outline text. And when I purchased Embird back in the early 90s, I bought all the modules at one time. So I'm not sure if insert simple text is just a part of basic Embird or if it's part of font engine. But I'm going to select font number 4, and I'm going to scroll down, and I want to look at the capital I, and so it's just a straight line. So I'm going to type an I, capital I, and I'm going to I wanted to uncheck keep aspect ratio, but it's not letting me, so we'll see what happens. It may make so I'm going to change the height of my I to 2.4, and I'm going to click OK, and I get this straight line. So I've found that it's kind of hard to grab that straight line when it's in the middle of this, so I'm going to move love off to the side just for a moment, and I'm going to select my blue line here, and I'm going to drag it. All right, let's try this again. I got to get that cursor to change to a crosshair because it's so skinny. There we go. And I'm going to bring this over here, and it looks like it's about the right size for that vertical part of the eye. So I'm going to just leave it right here. And it's easier to move the eye than it is that blue line. So I'm going to bring my eye over, and it looks pretty good. I'm like, okay, I'm happy with that. It looks like it's going straight down the center. So I'm going to join these 2 items because I don't want them to move. So I'm going to join, and then I can move love back. So then the next thing I look at is I think my eye is tilted the wrong direction. I think it needs to rotate a little bit toward the right. So I'm going to select my eye, and I'm going to select my rotate tool, and I'm just going to turn my eye a little bit so it's kind of in the same angle, so to speak. And so then I need to turn off my rotate tool. And so there I have my eye. Now the next thing I don't like is that I certainly don't want my eye and my seashells to be in black lettering. So I like this mint green in the seashell, and I would like seashells to be in that mint green. So here's my word seashells, and here's the mint green. And so I can click on the mint green and drag it down. I left clicked on the mint green, and I'm just dragging it down on top of the black color chip, and I'm going to click select identical or set identical, and then my seashell changes to green. But I don't want the green for the eye. I want a different color. And so I'm going to left click on the black color chip and click change color. And I'm going to use change color from catalog. And so when you open up the color catalog, it gives you all sorts of different um, thread manufacturers to choose from. There's lots of different ones, and so they're all in alphabetical order. And so if you had sim thread, you could select sim thread and it would give you the colors for that. If you have Madeira rayon, you could select that. I'm going to use Robinson Anton polyester. And so I'm going to select this Black-Eyed Susan color for my eye. So I just click on it. And right now I have them organized by name, but I could change that and have them organized by color number, or I could have them organized by color. So right now I have by name. So I selected the Black-Eyed Susan, and so I'm going to click OK. And so now my eye changed to this brownish color. And so I know that this color called Ice Ballet, and it tells me on the fourth line that this is a Robinson Anton 9028 Ice Ballet color. So I want my blue top stitching to be that same color. So I'm just going to drag it down with my left mouse button and click set. And so I have the same color there. And so I don't want this eye to be the only thing that is in that brownish color. So I'm going to change the top stitching around the outside of my sand dollar to be the same color. And so if I wasn't sure, I could click on a color, and if it disappears, then I know that was the color. I left clicked on it, and then to make it disappear, and I left click on it again to make it reappear. So again, I'm just going to click on my left mouse on my brown color, and I'm going to bring it up to this color, and I'm going to select, and now the outline of my sand dollar is that brown color. So right now, I think this looks pretty good, but I have this little void in this area, and I think I could jazz this up a hair. And so I'm going to add another element. So I'm going to click merge again, and this time I'm going to go to my fish folder. And so I'm going to click on and I just saved a bunch of stuff in this folder from previous video. So I saved this starfish here. And so I'm going to bring that down, and I'm going to kind of put it right here in front of my seashells. And I'd like this brown on this sand dollar to be the same color. So I'm going to bring that and change my color to make it identical. So kind of ties everything in together. And so now I want to make sure I want to join my sand dollar and my word seashells together because I want to be able to move them as one object. So I selected both of them in the objects order panel by clicking on one and then holding down the control button and clicking on the other. And I have a selection box around both items. And so now I'm going to click join. And so now I'm going to use my um, center horizontal in the hoop, and so it moves it a little bit. And then I'm going to join the next two objects. Same way, select one and the word I, and I'm going to join them. And so they're all one object now. And again, I'm going to center horizontally in the hoop. And then I look at this and I'm like, do I like the spacing between my words? And I think seashells would look better, would be tied together better if I made it a little closer. So I select on the starfish and the seashell, and I'm going to hold down my mouse button because I don't want to change my horizontal spacing, and I'm going to use the up arrow key on my keyboard, and I'm just going to hold it down and walk this up a little bit until it gets close to those swirls, and then I'm going to let go. And so now it looks like the word seashells is actually part of the design. It's not hanging out in no man's land. And I should have looked at this prior, but I don't like how far the word I sits away. And since I've already joined it, I'm going to have to split it again. So I'll just use my freehand select tool and split it. And so I'm going to split. And so again, I'm going to hold down my shift button, and this time I'm going to use my arrow that's pointing to the right, and I'm going to bring this in till it's closer. And so I think that looks a little better, and that probably threw my spacing here off. So I'm going to have to select these two objects again. And so I'll select, and actually I want the eye to be the first thing that stitches, so I'm going to insert it before. So I have my two objects there, and I'm going to join them, and then I'll check my spacing again, and it did throw it off a bit. And so now I'm going to look at this, and because of that, I think even though my seashells is centered in the hoop, it looks off center compared to the top, the I love. So I'm going to again shift and this time go to the left, and I'm going to just look at this. And again, it's kind of an eyeball thing, what looks aesthetically pleasing. And I'm going to try that. And I think maybe it's a little too high. So I'm just going to nudge it down a hair. Okay, that's maybe a little better. So when I look at that, I think it looks a lot better. So I'm going to select both objects now in my objects order panel and join them, and then double check that it's centered in the hoop. And now I'm going to do a smart color sort because I have a total of 11 colors here, or 11 color changes. And so I'm going to do a smart color sort. So the icon next to the trash can is the smart color sort. So I'm going to click on that, and I just set my maximal difference at 0, and I click OK. And so it eliminated one color change, but actually I could manually change these around if I wanted to and probably get it down to even fewer. But it's okay for the time being. And so if I was happy with everything, I would do a save as. And so I'm going to do a save as, and I don't want to save it in my beach category because I won't find it again. And so I think I have a love seashells folder, and so I could and I have to change the name, and I would call it I love seashells. And so I'm going to save it as a VP3. I could, if I didn't save it, you can either select however many files you wanted previous, or you can do all files, but I'm just going to click save. And so now my design is saved, and I could take it to my machine and sew it out. So this was just the beginning stitch editing video. I will get more into detail with a little bit more complex designs, but this should help you have some idea of how to go about it. And I hope you enjoyed the video.